here we are at In the Keep at Realms Deep. We've got Jon St. John.
Hi,
Very
everybody.
happy to have you here. We also are joined by Fred Schreiber of 3D Realms, obviously. And then we have my video engineer here, Haducant, who also does all the artwork for the podcast and basically everything. He's the superhero here. And also, most important thing about him is that he's a Jon St. John super fan. So we brought him in to...
is that right?
No,
You're embarrassing him, Ty.
jeez.
I didn't mean to
Mom.
embarrass you, but he
Mom, you're
literally...
embarrassing me.
He actually cried when I said, "Yeah, you can
Oh,
be there."
fuck
for
off!
this movie." He
Now
turned
you're
off
being
his
a dildo.
he turned off his microphone and went and cried on his girlfriend's arms.
No. What happened was I was like, "Hey, hun, guess who I get to talk with?" She's like, "Jon St. John." I'm like, "Jon St. John." She's like, "Well, that was just." And she was just joking.
Yeah, she
That's
looked
cool.
at the screen and said, "That guy doesn't look anything like Duke Nukem. Shut up."
Yeah, well, it's been John.
Nobody was gonna say
It's been
that.
since '96.
Yeah.
No, time passes.
This is what Duke looks like at 60.
The first thing we really want to get into, John, is how you got into voice acting in the first place, and that's a long story that involves, from what I can tell, radio broadcasting and a whole bunch of other shit. So, can you just tell us what sparked that interest in you? What made you want to go down that path in life?
Yeah, and only 2 or 3 arrests. No, I started out as a baby DJ in North Carolina when I was 14 years old back in 1975. And I just got a wild hair up my ass one day, went down to the local radio station, asked if I could have a job, and they put me on the air. And after 2 weekend shifts, they put me on full time. Mm-hmm. And the rest, my broadcast history goes on for 45 years. When I was recording as a production director in San Diego back in 1994 or 95 is when I met Lonnie Manella. And she's the one who first introduced me to voice acting in video games. And Duke 3D was pretty much the first game I did. So lucky me.
So let's back that up ever so slightly. Were you already doing voices as a kid? Were you just like one of those silly kids?
Oh,
like
yeah.
Were you the funny guy in the classroom?
Oh, yeah, class clown for sure. But Saturday morning cartoons was what really inspired me from the beginning. And I would do, you guys don't remember these cartoons, I'm sure, because you're much younger than me. But there was a cartoon called Frankenstein Jr., and he had a giant robot who'd go, "Okay, Buzz." So I'd be doing that voice and like Snagglepuss, exit stage left. I had all of the characters and Yogi Bear and all the cartoon characters that I watched.
I loved Yogi Bear. All the Hanna-Barbera cartoons.
Yay! Boo,
So-
boo, boo, boy! Yeah.
This may come as a surprise to you, but us, like, this generation had Boomerang, right? So, like, me and my dad watched all that stuff. Every Hanna-Barbera cartoon was already part of my kind of schema going into the world, and I'm really happy to know that we at least have that in common. So
We do. And then as far as getting into radio goes, I was inspired. My 3 mentors, well, I shouldn't say mentors, but my inspiration, Mel Blanc, first of all, because of his incredible talent. Gary Owens, who was a disc jockey in Los Angeles back in the day, and also appeared on the TV show Laugh-In. And I enjoyed watching him on Laugh-In saying things like, "Never put a cobra in your neighbor's shower," and George Carlin, who in 1975 had an album called FM and AM. And he did a bunch of different radio characters, including some on wonderful Wino Radio. And I used to impersonate him, and I sounded like this back in 1975. So all the kids at school said, "Dude, you should be on the radio." Went down to the local radio station, asked for the job, and got it. But those were my influences mostly.
okay. When you take that influence and you walk into a radio station, you say, like, "I want a job." Did you have an audition, or did they just say, like, "Get after it, kid. Go do whatever you want"?
Well, the program director was actually on the air. He buzzed me into the building, and I walked in. His name, by the way, was Jimi Hendrix, right? Yeah, Jimi Hendrix. And I said, "Hey, I'm the kid who called you. I want to be on the radio." He goes, "Okay, what I'm going to do is go down to the basement. I'm going to have you record an air check for me." And I said, "What's that?" And he walked me downstairs during a news break, and he showed me the console and 2 turntables and a reel-to-reel machine. He said, "Put these records on. Talk them up to the post." And I said, "What's the post?" He said, "Where they start singing. Don't talk over the singing. Record a few of those. Let me hear them." So I spent 4 or 5 hours down there during his air shift playing with all this equipment, figuring it out. And at the end of his air shift, he came down and he listened to the tape and he said, "Okay, you're on next Saturday morning." So I did a couple of weekends, as I said, and they hired me full time. So My parents were very cool in agreeing to let me do this because my air shift was 7 to midnight, and I signed off the station at midnight. And I'm in junior high at this time. So what would happen is after dinner, my father would drive me to the radio station each night. And then at midnight, my oldest brother, who was had already graduated from high school, would come and pick me up. Mm-hmm. And this went on for, gosh, about a year before a big FM station about an hour's drive away hired me away. And so then I'm in high school driving an hour back and forth every night for a 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift. And my parents said, keep your grades up and you can keep doing that radio thing. And that's how it all started for me.
What kind of music were you playing, or was it mostly talk radio? How did that?
No, the first station, WJNC in Jacksonville, North Carolina, was the format was called MOR, which meant middle of the road. I was playing Anne Murray, Barry Manilow, ABBA. Yeah. And oldies mixed in from the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, it was that kind of stuff. And then the first FM station I went on was a top 40 station that was playing the hits of the time in the mid to late 70s.
What were the hits of the time?
Let's see. You had My Sharona by The Knack. You had, remember Daz? No, by Brick. No? Yeah. Kind of a disco song. So disco was still alive, but there were a lot of ABBA hits, and there was Lynyrd Skynyrd and Molly Hatchet, a lot of Southern rock because I was in North Carolina at the time. So that was the kind of music.
South Alabama represent, man. Sweet home. I love Lynyrd
Skynyrd. Wait. Are you from Alabama?
Yeah.
Where?
Mobile.
Okay, so do you remember the Rude Dudes on WABB?
Yeah.
When you were a kid?
I mean, that would have been when I was very young.
St. John and Matthews, the Rude Dudes. You listen to me, dude.
I'm going to call my mom. So WABB has since gone away. It became like a Christian station there for a while, and then
remember the owner Bernie Dittman? We called him Barney Dickman on the air. He passed away several years ago, and after he died, the station sold off, and I think went Christian rock or something like that.
It's insane. It's WABD now, if I remember correctly, and it's like
no way
top 40 pop station.
Wow, what a shame! It was a great radio station at one time. I mean, when I was on it.
I mean, that was for my mom's generation. That was the channel. That was like everybody listened to WABB.
We had top ratings. We did so well. I went straight to Philadelphia from there, which was huge in my career.
What did you do in Philadelphia?
In Philadelphia, I started out as the production director for a radio station called Eagle 106. And then a little while later, after our morning show quit, me and Danny Bonaducci did the morning show on Eagle 106. You remember who he is? Danny Partridge from the Partridge Family?
Oh, that Danny Partridge. Yes.
I
remember that from my childhood, back in the hundreds, back in the 1900s. Let's loosen up here a little bit.
Right. Yeah. More iced coffee.
And you roll through all this radio stuff, and then how did you get the invite to come do some video game shit? And Duke Nukem was the first game you work on.
Pretty much, yeah.
What was the original pitch?
Lonnie Manella was in my studio recording an auto dealer ad, and just happenstance, she lives in San Diego, and I had moved out here in 1990. And so I guess it was early 1995 that she came in to record this spot, and I'm setting up microphones, and she launches into all these crazy, wacky voices. And I was really impressed. I went, wow, you do a lot of voices. She said, do you? I said, I do a few. And I got on my mic, and I did a whole bunch of impressions. And she went, wow, you have really good vocal range. Have you ever considered acting in video games? And I said, what do you mean acting in video games? There's no voices in video games. She said, well, there's going to be. There's going to be. So Duke 3D, she goes, I got this guy, George Broussard, out in Texas, who I'd like you to read for him. And we got on the phone the next Saturday from the studio with Broussard. And he said originally his idea for the Duke voice was to sound like, what's that actor? Charles Bronson. And I went, oh, Charles Bronson. You want him to sound like Charles Bronson? And he goes, maybe not. And Lonnie said, no, think Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
And Clint Eastwood, I went, okay, so you got to ask yourself, do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? And George said, that's the right tone, but this character is all roided out. And I said, well, let me lower it an octave. Do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? And he stopped me right there and said, that's it. Lock in on that. That's the voice. You're hired. And it was that easy.
So your ability to just respond to those cues has to have a lot to do with why you ended up where you are, man. Like if someone could just describe to you like this is what I want, and you can immediately kind of bring that up in yourself. That really speaks a lot to your talent.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind. I am one of those pain in the ass voice actors who does not want to see the artwork of the character first, though, because I get pigeonholed into the voice I think is right for the character, and often the director doesn't feel it's the right sound. So when sides are sent out for auditions these days, I do not look at the artwork, and I request that they don't send it to me if they ask.
I think your versatility is one of the key things about why you're doing so great. You mentioned, you went to Lani and you did a whole range of different types of voices. And I remember when we met the first time, and back in 2015, probably, to work on Bombshell, you also instantly nailed Dr. J.S. Haskell. And then after that, with Brad Rogers, you just instantly nailed Dusky, because it was, for you, it just came naturally. I think it took 5 minutes in each call for us to just tell you, oh, this is what the character is like. And he comes from like for instance, Dusty was like, okay, he's from, Boston, and he's like this rude-mouthed type of character who is like sick and tired of being old, kind of like Bender for Futurama, and you just nailed it. And I think that's one of the things that really categorizes you as a great voice actor.
I think it's more like the direction. I think it's from you guys. I mean, I can make my voice do things, but you're the ones who say, we need it to sound like this, and then I do whatever, and you guys seem to like it. So
it takes a village to raise a Jon St. John. Like you got to have everything. You got to have good direction. You got to have good production.
And I'm still so immature. Isn't it great?
Fantastic. And as we all know, like there's great voice acting in really shitty games, and vice versa. There's
really shitty direction and voice acting too. I mean, have you ever seen Evil Zone? Have you ever played Evil Zone? Where I'm
sounds like a game we need to play. It sounds fantastic already. I love
the name itself. Just
Oh, the direction was so bad. Play the game sometime if you get a chance, and check out the Danzavar character. It's just terrible. I feel like shit for having done it.
Oh, you did that? Okay, we definitely need to play it now. That sounds fantastic.
Oh yeah,
Evil Zone.
Fred, let's buy the rights to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do it.
Evil Zone. We're gonna make a sequel or remake.
I'll co-invest.
Yeah, where I get to self-direct. That would be awesome.
Yes.
That would be fantastic.
So, prior to this, were you a video game guy? Did you play games at all? Or was arcade stuff?
I did. I played a lot of Duke 3D, obviously. I liked the Twisted Metal games, and my kids did too. And then I got to be the entire male cast of Twisted Metal 4, and that was the first game where my kids really liked something I was in. Because, Duke 3D was a little too intense at the time for them. They were very young. And even for me, when I was, 34, 35 when Duke 3D came out, my oldest brother and I would play Duke matches online, and it was intense. I remember my scalp crawling, and I'd be sweating, and it was scary and intense. Did you guys feel that way the first time you got into RPG games?
I felt that the first time I played Duke 3D.
Mm-hmm.
Duke 3D was scary and intense for me because I was I was like almost 10. Like just around that age where you also start to, watch horror movies and splatter movies and that. Like, Duke Nukem 3D was like horror for me, horror and intense. It was, and then you play as this badass dude, so you get some confidence from that.
Right. So round table of everybody's first Duke experience.
My first Duke experience. Yeah. Oh my god! It was on a Linksys demo disc, and I played that at the age of 4. Thanks, Uncle. Wow. So long story short, he built us a PC back in the day, like a Windows 95, but Duke Nukem, the demo, was on there. So, first time I heard, holy shit. And I was like I heard it from my parents, it was one thing, but to hear it in a video game when the only other game you played was like Super Mario World and Kirby, like, first time seeing women of the,
professionals.
Thank you, that's the word.
My first Duke game was Time to Kill with my dad.
Nice.
We played that game all the time. Well, first of all, good job, Dad. It really paid off in the end, but my mom was not happy about this. Yeah, it left a mark, dude. I've been on interviews on other podcasts where people ask me like, what was your first like arena shooter game like this? And PvP Duke Time to Kill with my pops. So yeah, this is a full circle for me, really, to come into this interview. Dad, Look at me, here I am.
Fun you mentioned Time to Kill, because that's one of the games that I never played as a kid. I didn't have a PlayStation. I was just a PC guy. My first games when I was around 5, 6 years old was actually the very first Apogee games. So I grew up with Duke Nukem 1, and I got Duke Nukem 2 from my dad as a birthday present. And that was actually the first time I heard Duke Nukem, which was Joe Ziegler from 3D Realms.
I'm back.
Yeah, who was still here. And it actually sounded pretty good. Like that was the first time I heard a character talk in a video game. Joe Ziegler saying, "I am back."
Talking about existing back then, you want to know where my video game experience first started? Was in 1974.
With Pong
in North Carolina. Pong was among them, but in an arcade called Putter's Palace. It was an indoor little mini putt golf thing, and half of the building was arcade games. And my favorite was, remember Defender?
Yeah.
Where you okay, and then what was the one where you had to spin the dial real fast and shoot into the geometrical figures?
That was Tempest.
Tempest. I
Tempest
love
3000.
that.
I was going to
think
say
it was called
Yar's
Tempest
Revenge
3000.
for a second there.
So for me, it all started out as arcade games specifically, and then my first console game at home was the TurboGrafx 16. Anybody remember Legendary Axe?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh god, Turbo.
yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Jared, you have to do this with me.
Oh, you're right.
Make eye contact. Ready? We're not worthy.
We're not worthy.
Thank you so much.
Do we
Stop
clap
your
again?
groveling. I hate when you grovel. Stop groveling.
All right, everyone. Have a fantastic night and day, and wherever you are, I'm gonna go to bed.